My father's two disciples came to ask for a bride at the same time. One was a promising captain from a wealthy family with a bright future ahead of him, and the other was a poor factory worker who had nothing to offer besides his good character. My stepmother didn't hesitate to choose the captain for her daughter, while I had no choice but to accept the factory worker. Who would have imagined that just a few months after the wedding, the captain would become paralyzed trying to save someone? Meanwhile, the factory worker seized an unexpected opportunity and became wealthy overnight, amassing a great fortune. When I returned home adorned in gold and jewels to visit my father, I unexpectedly ran into my stepsister, who now looked pale and haggard, sobbing in front of my father, seeking comfort. My father pointed at me, then at her, and coldly said that everything was destiny, that she had to accept her fate. Refusing to accept it, she lunged at me and stabbed me. When I opened my eyes again, we had both been reborn to the very day we were to choose our husbands. This time, she ignored tradition and immediately approached the factory worker. I smiled calmly. This time, there would be no family drama. It was my turn to marry a man who respected me. Chapter 1. These two men have come to ask for a bride, my father said. One is a lieutenant rising even faster than I did, and the other is a factory worker. Though they seem as different as heaven and earth now, Domingo is not a fish in a pond. Sooner or later, he will make a name for himself. So you girls decide for yourselves. He turned away with a sigh. The difference in their status was simply too great. Although my father valued Domingo, the truth was that his family lived in hardship. Not only had an aging, temperamental mother to care for, but he also supported a pair of orphan cousins for no particular reason. The entire burden of the household fell on his shoulders. Even if my father respected him, marrying Domingo meant a life of struggle and enduring a difficult mother-in-law. In contrast, Martin was like a son of the gods, wealthy, handsome, with educated, refined, and reasonable parents. He himself was ambitious, and at such a young age had already become a captain with limitless prospects. There was no comparison between them. Anyone would choose Martin without hesitation. My stepmother anxiously gestured to Maria, pushing her to choose Martin. But to everyone's shock, she chose Domingo. When my stepmother saw Maria reaching for the gift Domingo had wrapped in cloth, she slapped her hand and shouted, "Are you blind? That's Domingo's engagement token." But Maria, ignoring her, clutched Domingo's modest gift and even kindly handed me Martin's engagement present, saying sweetly, "Sister, the Chan family has already suffered enough. How could I, as your sister, let you marry and suffer too? Let me bear that pain for you instead." And with that, she walked away proudly with Domingo's gift. My stepmother stared after her in disbelief, her face red and confused, as if she thought Maria had been possessed by some spirit. She had always feared suffering above all else, and could not understand why Maria now acted so differently. But I knew why, because just like me, Maria had been reborn. In our past life, the moment my father finished speaking, Maria eagerly grabbed Martin's engagement token. She and her mother-in-law praised Domingo in front of me, claiming he was just going through a rough patch and that his future would be bright. But I didn't want to get married, let alone to Domingo. In order to force me, they drugged me and let Domingo take my innocence. They thought that by marrying into the Zhao family, Maria would become the envied wife of a commander, while I, married into the Chan family, would be doomed to a life of poverty. Chapter 2. But who would have thought that just a month into the marriage, Martin would be injured on the battlefield and become paralyzed from the waist down? Confined to bed and unable to move, he relied on Maria to care for his every need. Maria, who had been pampered all her life, couldn't handle the humiliation. She caused a scene almost daily. Eventually, even the Zhao family couldn't tolerate her anymore, and Martin proposed divorce. Before she could even fully enjoy her life as a high-ranking officer's wife, she had already become the laughingstock of others. Worse still, people began calling her a bad omen, claiming she was the reason Martin became disabled and that anyone who married her would suffer the same fate. Meanwhile, Domingo, with my father's help, seized the moment and went from being a nameless factory worker to a wealthy local tycoon almost overnight. His mother, once thought to be difficult, now treated me with deep respect, grateful for the help my father gave her son. My life flourished. I had a nanny to cook, a luxury car to travel, and my appearance and fashion elevated with our growing wealth. Unlike Maria, everyone said I was Domingo's lucky star ever since he married me. His life had soared. Domingo believed it too, and treated me with the utmost respect. Everything revolved around me. I was pampered like a princess. When I returned home wearing gold and jewels to visit my father, I ran into Maria again. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She had come to ask our father to discipline Martin. That's the beginning of our story, but her father knew perfectly well that her past grudges with Martin had nothing to do with any of this. Besides, Martin was seriously ill. How could she possibly stoop so low as to create trouble for him at such a time? When her father saw me return, he simply pointed at me, then at my stepsister, and coldly said, "You made this choice yourself. It's fate. You must accept your destiny." Accept fate? While others call her a bringer of bad luck, they say I am a bearer of fortune. She already harbored deep resentment, and now even her father stood with everyone else, telling her to accept her destiny. Of course, my stepsister wasn't willing to surrender to fate, so she rushed at me and stabbed me. And now, she has been reborn alongside me. My thoughts drift back as I follow Maria to the factory where Domingo works. I don't know what she said to him, but she even shyly intertwined her fingers with his, leading him into the forest. The two of them. I marveled silently. Maria was truly bold to make such a move in broad daylight to secure her marriage into the Chan family. That night, she ran to me, cheeks flushed with excitement, and boasted, "Sister, this time Domingo can only be mine. You just go ahead and marry into the Zhao family so you can enjoy being a young widow." Then she walked away with her head held high, looking immensely pleased with herself. I watched her leave and simply shrugged, unbothered. The Zhao family holds no burden from at his time. It's finally my turn to enjoy a marriage where Martin gives me nothing but respect. As for the Chan family, every household has its hardships, and who can truly see the reality beneath appearances? I married on the same day as Maria. After the guests left and night fell, the healthy and handsome Martin opened the door, his face slightly flushed, and walked toward me with a gentle smile. His features were striking, his figure slender, and even though his appearance was charming, he still had a youthful look that made my heart race as he approached. Even though I had lived 2 lives and had already been married to him in the past, I couldn't help the blush that rose to my cheeks in that moment. Chapter 3. Seeing me like that, Martin let out a soft laugh and thoughtfully handed me a glass of water. As he poured it, he said, "I sent the betrothal gift to your house, but later I heard your father let you and your sisters choose freely. I was so worried, but when I learned it was you coming to marry me, I finally felt at peace." As I drank the water and heard his words, a wave of confusion swept over me. Did that mean I was the one he wanted all along? My eyes met Martin's, awkward and unsure. His gaze was dark, and I watched him swallow hard. Suddenly, he took the teacup from my hands and leaned in close. So many questions weighed on my heart. Last night I had been so exhausted that I fell into a deep sleep and hadn't had the chance to ask anything clearly. Before dawn, Martin was already preparing to leave for the military base. He was so considerate that he didn't wake me. When I woke and found him gone, I threw on my pajamas and rushed outside. Seeing that he hadn't left yet, I ran straight to him, throwing my arms around him in front of everyone. I knew what was coming, on accident that would leave him half paralyzed. Thinking of his pale body lying in that hospital bed, I choked up and whispered, "Can you not go? I had a dream something bad happened to you. I'm scared." He stroked my hair gently and said patiently, "I can't not go. Even if there's danger, someone has to step forward. A real man can't be a coward and fear for his life. Besides, I'm their leader. They're waiting for me. How could I not show up?" His words brought me back to reality, and I noticed the young faces surrounding us, boys even younger than Martin, cheerful and full of jokes, with no trace of fear in their expressions. I couldn't help the sting in my nose. Thinking of the danger they would soon face made me tear up. But what could I do? Like Martin said, someone always has to step forward. Slowly, I let him go. Watching them walk away, lighthearted and brave, I felt nothing but pride. No matter what lies ahead, I will walk alongside Martin. Ever since Martin left a few days ago, I've been restless and unable to sleep. I, who never believed in gods, now eat vegetarian meals and pray with all my heart. But what had to come finally arrived. I saw Martin being lifted from a stretcher, his face pale. My tears burst forth like a flood. He couldn't escape his fate. To save a boy not even 18 years old, Martin was struck by a bomb, and now the lower half of his body is paralyzed for life. He can never return to the barracks. The burden of our household now rests entirely on my shoulders. I often see a look of despair in his eyes, especially when I help him with things as intimate as using the bathroom. The psychological pain has made him more silent with each passing day. I worry he might do something reckless, so I try every way I can to show him how much I need him. I pretend to be afraid of the dark just so he'll stay close. When I struggle to fold a freshly washed blanket, I call him to help me. He always does, willingly, but the light in his eyes has vanished. Our small home is shrouded in gloom, lifeless and cold. Chapter 4. And in that very moment, Domingo, with the financial support of my father, Domingo seized an opportunity in the fashion industry and became rich overnight. He bought a luxury car and a villa, quickly turning into someone admired by all. And Maria, just like in my previous life, received the full support of my father thanks to the Chan family. Her whole family held her in high regard, and everything revolved around her. At home, they hired a nanny for her, and whenever she went out, someone was always there to protect her. She was extremely ostentatious. One day, she showed up wearing a flashy dress and an imported necklace, proudly flaunting her glamour. "Sister, look at me now, I am better off than you," she boasted. "I have money and power, and everyone respects me. This time, I'll never have problems again." I was washing clothes and simply nodded without much interest. Maria wasn't satisfied with my indifference. She hadn't expected such a calm reaction from me, so she deliberately tried to provoke me. "Unlike you, sister, who's living like a widow at such a young age, taking care of someone else. Are you really going to waste your life like this?" Still, I ignored her. She pushed further. "Sister, you may not know this, but people out there are saying you're the bringer of misfortune, that you're the reason Martin ended up like this." I was about to turn away when Martin wheeled himself outside and shouted, "What nonsense! If anyone dares to speak such rubbish again, I'll skin them alive." Maria scoffed, replying coldly, "Brother-in-law, still pretending to be tough? You should take a good look at yourself in the mirror. What can you even do now? Can you really skin anyone alive? You're just a useless man who can't even take care of himself, living off a woman every day. Shame on you." Every word she spat out was filled with mockery. And when she finished, a twisted satisfaction and pride spread across her face. I didn't care how she spoke to me, but Martin was already at the edge of despair and she still tried to push him further. From the corner of my eye, I saw Martin's frustrated face, his head lowered like a child who had done something wrong, his eyes locked on the ground. I couldn't take it anymore. I picked up the basin of laundry water and splashed it onto Maria. As I threw it, I cursed at her furiously. "You and your filthy mouth. Meddling in everything like it's your business. I give you face and you don't appreciate it, huh? I'll shut that mouth of yours for good." Her clothes and expensive purse were drenched and ruined. She couldn't dodge. Maid chased her around the yard. She turned with fury, glaring at me, and suddenly her expression shifted. A wicked glint flashed in her eyes as she got an idea. Catching me off guard, she rushed at Martin and shoved him to the ground. While fleeing, she laughed triumphantly and shouted, "See, Martin really is a useless cripple. Zhang Jing, you married a worthless man." I dropped the hose and ran to Martin, panicked, but he snapped, "Don't come near me." I saw him trying to get up on his own, but no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't move an inch. His face and body were stained with dirt, and this proud man couldn't hold back anymore, broke down and cried. I rushed to him, hugged him tightly, and kept comforting him. "Everything will be okay, everything will be okay, I'll always be with you." Later, while bathing him, Martin kept apologizing with remorse. I barely touched my dinner and went to bed. I can't let our days go on like this. I want Martin to recover. I must find a way to cure his legs. I looked at the book I had borrowed from a student next door. Martin's condition can't be healed now, but that doesn't mean he'll never walk again. I have to try. I'll get into university and dedicate myself to studying medicine. In my previous life, I had clearly been accepted into university, When I received the admission letter, I excitedly shared the news with Domingo, but right in front of me. Before I could stop him, he tore the letter in half without hesitation. To punish me for acting on my own, he locked me in a room for an entire month. Only when I lowered my head and admitted fault did he finally let me out. Chapter 5. Even now, thinking about him fills me with terror. This time, I've enrolled again and only 3 days remain before the university entrance exam. Fortunately, it hasn't been long since I last took it, and I still remember most of the material. For the next 3 days, I studied quietly beside Martin, reviewing late at night after he fell asleep. Just when I started worrying about what Martin would do on the day of the exam, he suddenly spoke during dinner the night before. Prepare an extra day's worth of meals. Tomorrow, my former assistant will come take care of me. Don't worry, go take your exam with peace of mind. I had never mentioned my exam to him, yet somehow he already knew and had made arrangements for me. Watching him move about so gently made me think back to Domingo in my past life, and I couldn't help but feel relieved. Relieved that this time, I had married Martin. Honestly, I prefer a relationship built on mutual respect, rather than one fueled by fleeting passion. I successfully took the entrance exam. Results would be out at the end of July. As expected, I was accepted into University A. But before I could even show Martin my acceptance letter, Maria dragged me back home. Father, look at my sister, she's married and still insists on going to college. What is she planning? To fall in love freely once she gets there and abandon her husband? What will people say about us when that happens? Father glanced at the admission letter and looked at me with fury. Without saying a word, he slapped me hard across the face. If you marry a rooster, you follow the rooster. If you marry a dog, you follow the dog. A daughter of the Zhang family must have loyalty and feelings. Martin is gravely ill if you can't even take care of him properly. What university do you think you're going to? I think your thoughts are already twisted. This admission letter has no place here. As he spoke, he raised his hand as if to tear the letter apart. My future had already been destroyed once. Was it really going to be ruined again by my own father? Father-in-law, stop. Just when I was drowning in despair, Martin was wheeled in by his parents. He rolled forward in his wheelchair, placed himself in front of me, and gently took the admission letter from my father's hands, returning it to me. Take care of it well, he said quietly. Ever since we got married, I had only seen my in-laws once at the wedding. After Martin's injury, his pride kept him from seeing anyone, so this was our second meeting. They greeted me with kind smiles, then invited my father to sit down. They were both educated and polite, their tone calm and respectful. Father-in-law, we support Zhang Jing going to university. As for Martin, I will help take care of him, Martin's mother said gently. Zhang Jing is a good girl. Ever since Martin's accident, she's never once complained while caring for him. A girl like that would never do anything dishonorable. Martin's father nodded in agreement. Yes. We believe Zhang Jing deserves the chance. Now that times have changed, young people should adapt and strive to grow. Compared to their calm reasoning, my father's earlier slap seemed completely irrational. I was now a married daughter, and if even my in-laws had no objections, he could no longer stop me. The only one clenching her teeth bitterly was Maria, who had witnessed the whole scene. Her expression twisted in frustration, as if she were grinding her teeth to pieces. After all, in our past life, the Zhao family had been so strict with her that they had even considered expelling her. But even if she hated it, there was nothing she could do to override my father and stop me from going to college. So it was settled I would attend university. Chapter 6. My mother passed away early, and soon after her death, my father remarried a stepmother and had a stepsister. That sister always wore a mask of kindness, but after being falsely accused and humiliated by her several times, I became more cautious and guarded. In my past life, even though I didn't like Domingo, I was forced to marry into the Chan family. I couldn't bear his behavior, yet I had to swallow my frustration. But now, the appearance of a Zhao family has allowed me to finally feel what it's like to have support behind me. That night, As Martin was preparing for bed, I suddenly grabbed his hand and asked, "Do you remember a little girl who was once accused by her stepmother of stealing money? You used your own money to cover it up, loudly calling her out as a wicked woman." My wide, hopeful eyes stared up at him as I leaned on his leg. He smiled, gently tapped my nose, and said, "Of course I remember that poor little thing was you." He hadn't smiled in a long time. I watched, mesmerized, as the corners of his lips lifted, and suddenly I found the courage to say, "Did you know that little girl has always liked you?" He leaned in, eyes soft, and replied, "I didn't know. But I do know that the woman I wanted to send a betrothal gift to was you." We were so close that I could feel his breath against mine, warm and mingling in the air. The atmosphere turned quietly romantic. Embarrassed, I backed away, biting my lip as I rushed to the desk, cheeks burning. Flipping through my books nervously, I finally gathered the last bit of courage and said, "That's why I need to work hard, study medicine, and cure your leg. I want to stay with you for life." I clenched my hands tightly, my face flaming like fire. After a while, I heard him say, "Then I must work hard too. I don't want anyone saying I live off my wife." Since then, it wasn't just me who studied. Martin also began to learn cryptography. Something like decoding intelligence. I didn't fully understand it, but he seemed to enjoy scribbling numbers and puzzles every day. Since I was reborn in this life, I didn't want to let it slip by. This was a time of rapid economic growth, so I also took some money and invested it in industries that I remembered were profitable in my past life. The returns came quickly, and in the end, even Mother Zhao entrusted me with the entire Zhao family fortune to manage. Everything was progressing in the right direction. But Maria couldn't sit still. She came over with gifts, pretending to visit Martin but really just to mock him. "I've only been married to Domingo for 2 months, and I'm already pregnant. He may be rough, but he sure knows how to please a woman." Then she looked at me smugly. "Sister, just look at yourself. What a miserable life you're living with this man who's not a man, not a monk, just a useless cripple." I rolled my eyes and replied, "Well, now that you're pregnant, be careful around your brother-in-law." But she didn't catch my hidden meaning and thought I was still talking about her sex life. She raised her chin proudly and said, "Don't worry, sister. He adores me." I looked at her as if she were a fool and continued reading my notes. She sneered at the sight of my books covered in annotations and mocked, "What's the point of studying? You're a woman. Can you change the world? No matter how capable a woman is, in the end it all depends on what kind of man she marries. Otherwise, it's all useless." Great thinkers once said that women hold up half the sky. I sighed and replied, "You forgot one thing: you don't even read. How could you possibly think straight?" "Are you mocking me?" she snapped, pointing at me in rage. "Study, study, study. You'll study yourselves to death, and in the end you'll both be old, childless, and alone." I calmly picked up a cup of water and splashed it right on her. "I've been too nice to you, haven't I?" Chapter 7. She ran off instinctively, and I quickly slammed the door shut behind her and shouted, "Your mouth reeks worse than a septic tank. Don't come back again, Yuri, polluting the air." As soon as I turned around, I saw Martin laughing behind me. In my haste, I had splashed some water on his pants, so I knelt down to help dry them, recalling Maria's crude remarks from earlier. "I don't care about sex," I muttered. "As long as you're with me, I'm already very happy." Just as I reached out, I touched a part of his thigh, by accident. He grabbed my hand with his warm palm, his face tense. "Actually, it's just one leg that's injured," he said quietly. "It's not like I can't do it." During the Mid-Autumn Festival, my father invited us to celebrate with him. I brought some fruit home while pushing Martin in his wheelchair. As we reached the doorway, I heard the rowdy noise coming from inside. My stepmother was shrieking at the top of her lungs, as if she wanted neighbors 10 miles away to hear. "These fruits are imported, more expensive than gold. It's all thanks to my wonderful son-in-law that I'm now living a life more luxurious than ancient emperors." Martin felt a little awkward seeing the humble fruit we had bought from the corner shop. "Isn't this a bit
too little?" he asked.
I shook my head. This is exactly what they deserve. I pushed him in with confidence and greeted them. "We're here." With sharp eyes, my stepmother immediately grabbed the fruit from Martin and wrinkled her nose. "Look at this discount fruit from the store. Is the Zhao family trying to humiliate us, acting like we can't afford proper fruit?" My father gestured disapprovingly, took the fruit from her, and asked us to sit down. But anyone with half a brain could see that his heart now favored the powerful son-in-law. Not that I cared. I had come only to watch the show. That day, along with Maria, Domingo's cousin and her son also came to visit. When I saw the little boy who looked almost identical to Domingo, I couldn't help but chuckle. Maria, oblivious, still treated the mother and son like family. But the truth was they were. During dinner, Domingo suddenly raised a glass to toast Martin. I responded in his place, explaining, "He's injured. He can't drink." A bit tipsy, Domingo seemed to have just remembered and pointed at Martin's leg with mock pity. "Oh, right, I forgot my brother-in-law's a cripple." I was about to stand, but Martin gently stopped me with a smile. "It's all right." But Domingo didn't stop. "My brother-in-law can't serve as an officer anymore, and he can't just sit at home living off my sister, right? Luckily, my company needs a security guard. I'll pay you, you won't have to do anything. Just sit there and guard the door in your wheelchair." After saying that, he even winked at Martin, clearly mocking him. I couldn't take it and snapped back. "I haven't eaten at my brother-in-law's table, so maybe he shouldn't worry about my affairs either, right?" Before I could finish, my stepmother slammed her chopsticks on the table and screamed, "Who are you talking down to? Someone offers you a job out of goodwill, and you reject it? You're so bold now in front of others, but don't come begging us for help later." My father sat in silence, his face as pale as iron. My stepmother didn't stop there. She continued raising toasts for Domingo, not even speaking a single word to Martin. I felt a pang of regret. If I had known how biased and classist my father truly was, I wouldn't have dragged Martin into this humiliating situation. But Domingo was celebrating too soon. Even in a fast-growing economy, getting rich overnight like him can't be clean. And with so many skeletons in his closet, no one knows when a fire might break out. Chapter 8. I began helping Martin with physical therapy using the techniques I had learned in school. I originally thought he'd be too proud to bear the humiliation, but to my surprise, this experience had made him stronger. The pain didn't make him bitter or self-loathing. On the contrary, he became more cooperative and poured his energy into learning cryptography. In the second semester of my freshman year, Martin followed in my footsteps and was accepted into the Cryptography Institute. He quickly began to show real talent, proving to everyone that even outside the military, he could shine in other fields. Not wanting to fall behind, I completed all the theoretical knowledge in just half a year and actively participated in hands-on practice, gradually becoming familiar with the practical aspects. At the same time, the investments I made based on memories from my past life also began to flourish. Although I didn't become rich overnight like Domingo, our family would no longer have to worry about money for the rest of our lives. Meanwhile, the Chan family had fallen into total chaos. Pregnant Maria had discovered that Domingo was having an affair. His mistress was so arrogant that she even came to my father's house to make a scene, shamelessly claiming that Maria had stolen her love, rather than admitting she had stolen Maria's marriage. Ignoring her pregnancy, Maria got into a physical fight with her. In the end, she fell down the stairs. The baby didn't survive. She would never be able to have children again. When I heard the news, I felt a deep sadness, but all I said was, "Domingo's cousin really has some talent." Martin, puzzled, asked why I said that. I asked him, "Didn't you notice that boy we saw at my father's house the other day? Doesn't he look exactly like Domingo?" Martin frowned. "They say nephews resemble their uncles. That's not so strange." I shook my head. But what if that cousin isn't actually his cousin? What I regretted most was that Maria never uncovered this secret. She only lashed out at Domingo, cursing and beating him without mercy. If the respect Domingo's family once showed Maria came from the financial help of her father, then in the past year, all of Maria's extravagant spending and gifts to her father and stepmother had, in Domingo's heart, already paid off that debt of gratitude. And now that Maria had lost the ability to have children, Domingo no longer had any patience for her. When Maria hit him, he slapped her back hard and threatened her coldly, "If you keep causing trouble, I'll leave you with nothing. You won't get a single cent." His attitude shifted too fast. How could Maria adjust? She had lost her child, her fertility, and now, even her dignity. Filled with bitterness, she fought Domingo again. Both were injured and ended up looking miserable. Maria, already weak, suffered more severe wounds. Yet even when she lay on the ground, bleeding and unable to move, Domingo didn't look back once. He slammed the door and walked away. Chapter 9. When I saw Maria again, she no longer carried her usual arrogance. Her body had grown thin, her face pale and hollow, with dark circles under her eyes, and no trace of life in them. "Sister," she said bitterly, "are you happy now? In this new life, I still haven't lived better than you." I sipped my coffee and replied without emotion, "I've never tried to compete with you. Life its warmth and coldness only known by the one living it. We don't live to impress others." I added quietly, "And don't come looking for me again. In the end, we're enemies." She gave a faint, bitter smile. Looking at her in that state, I suddenly remembered Domingo from my past life, how he ripped up my university letter and locked me in a room for a month. Remembering his smug expression, I couldn't help but remind Maria, "Domingo got rich overnight. Have you never thought that something was off about that? And that cousin's child, I suggest you do a paternity test between him and Domingo." After saying that, I turned and walked away. "Why are you helping me?" she called out suddenly. I stopped, remembering the fear I felt when I was trapped in the Chan household and that cousin, who always acted like a shadow, yet was the real venomous snake behind it all. In my past life, it was her manipulation that led me to destroy my own admission letter. And this time, she was also behind Maria's miscarriage and loss of fertility. I had looked into that mistress. It turned out she was just a pawn, deliberately pushed into the spotlight by Domingo's so-called cousin. I paused and said, "Maybe it's fate. I can't save a woman like her, but I can save one like you." Maria still had some sense. First, she protected herself by pretending to submit to Domingo, keeping things stable on the surface. Then, in secret, she conducted a DNA test between Domingo and the child. When the report arrived, she threw it down in front of him, pretending to be heartbroken. Only then was Domingo forced to confess that cousin was actually a foster wife he had brought from his hometown. He had once been so poor that he hid his identity and married Maria only to gain her father's support. Maria didn't blame him. Instead, she worried about him. Her compassion completely disarmed Domingo. In return, he began to feel deeply guilty toward her. Maria pouted and, slightly embarrassed, said, "Unfortunately, I can't give you children anymore, but I really don't want to be a burden. Seeing how hard you work, I want to do my part too." She batted her eyes, making Domingo visibly unsettled. "If not, I'll just go work at the company with you. At least then I won't think about the child I lost every single day." How could Domingo refuse her with that pitiful look? Without thinking, he nodded. Maria smiled, with quiet triumph. From then on, she also started to study, though what she studied was business management. Around that time, some unfamiliar faces began to appear. Though not entirely unfamiliar, anyone who had ever spent time at a police station would recognize them. In just 2 months, Maria managed to send Domingo to prison. The reason? Back when Domingo was starting his company, he had done whatever it took to seize business opportunities. He had not only killed someone but also transferred 10 million from their account. That's how he got rich overnight. Chapter 10. Domingo's fortune came fast and vanished just as quickly. All his assets were seized. And Maria, determined to cut ties with him, didn't hesitate to tip off the police beforehand, leading to a violent attack from Domingo. Luckily, the police arrived in time and saved her. She filed for divorce under the grounds of domestic abuse and finally escaped completely. She also revealed that the child of Domingo's cousin was actually his own biological son, pointing investigators to the true culprit. Her harsh actions were criticized by many around her, even her own mother, who lamented that she shouldn't have sent such a good son-in-law to prison. Maria tried to start several businesses locally, but no one supported her. In the end, she had no choice but to leave for a faraway land. Before she left, she came to see me. By then, Martin was already able to walk, slowly and with support. And I was pregnant with a small baby bump. My in-laws took care of us lovingly. Our family was united and at peace. Maria stood at the door for a long time. In the end, I was the one who saw her. She didn't come in. She only said from a distance, "Sister, thank you."